What's up, everybody? It's David from the Misc Studio, and I'm here with my model Chris, where today I will be showcasing how I go about doing a skin fade with a textured crop. You know, cropped off in the front, a haircut that has a lot of texture, a lot of movement, and we're gonna complement it all with a nice skin fade. Let's jump right into it. Step number one is making sure that everything is nice and consistently saturated with water. I like to make sure that I'm working with a canvas that I have control over. That's why I make sure that everything is nice and wet. Right now I'm just combing through his hair, figuring out how everything wants to lay, figuring out his natural growth patterns. And for me, how I like to go about all of my haircuts is I basically identify the dominant growth pattern. You see, everybody has a different growth patterns, and right now, my model Chris, his dominant growth pattern is right here, dead center. So what I like to do is I like to separate directly from here, horseshoe section, basic, just a basic horseshoe section, separating the top from the sides, but using the crown as a reference to give the client a very custom haircut to his growth patterns. So I separate cleanly the top from the sides, and it should look like this. The top sectioned off from the sides, but directly from the crown. You don't want to just randomly place a horseshoe section without balance. So that's why I use the crown to section off the top from the sides. So once I have sectioned off the top from the sides completely, I will begin my haircut at the back of the head. You know, right now I'm finding his occipital bone, trying to work with his head shape. So right now his occipital bone isn't very protruding, so I can basically create whatever canvas I want. I don't have to worry about his bone sticking out back here. So I basically just pick up the hair. And this is what I like to call, you know, the foundation of the haircut. I'm basically gonna be picking up the hair, cutting block all the way around, naturally, a U shape all the way around his head. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do right now. Picking up the hair, make sure I have a lot of tension, good control over it, the hair. And I wanna get really tight. I wanna get my knuckles on the head, so when I come in with my clipper, it's very minimal work that we have to do. And you never want to cut past your second knuckle, so I will be stopping right here. Boom. You always want to say chest to eyes with the section that you're cutting. I take a slight step. I never let go of the hair. I find my guide. I continue to cut. Never past your second knuckle, always resetting. Scoop the hair again, making sure that I have consistent, very consistent balance around the haircut. Find my shortest point, cut, resection. All I'm doing is basically cutting a U shape. So you could already see I've already cut one side of the head. You see what I'm working with right now. I started at the back of the head using block graduation, very tight to his head, knuckles on the head, consistently, just following the head shape, cutting a nice natural U shape. You could already see it forming right there. Nice line that I've cut, following it into the fringe. See? All the way through consistently. Now I'm gonna cut the other side now. Same process. I start at my guide at the back that I cut already. Find my guide at the back that I cut. Right there. You can see it. All I'm doing right now is basically just retracing my cut, making sure that it's nice and consistent all the way through. You can see that what I'm cutting is really not a lot. It's just me really detailing that line that I'm cutting till it's nice and consistent all the way through. You can see I've cut the same shape on this side. Fire. It's coming in already. You can see the shape of the haircut. And if you can see it, if he puts his head down, you can see it's already nice and square. It's getting square. You know, you don't want to round off your client's head because then you're not being mindful of the shape of the haircut. You're only worried about the fade. We've already cut the foundation of the haircut, as you can see, just all around his head. Chris, put your head down for me. There you go. Nice consistent line all the way through around the head. All I did was basically I used block graduation all the way around to cut this nice and tight to the head. So we already have a nice consistent foundation to go off of this haircut. Next step, what we need to do is make sure that the top connects to the sides, so the haircut is consistent and we don't have any disconnection. Everything is gonna flow together. The sides connect with the top. So this is how we do this. We go right back to where we started at the crown. Right back to where we started at the crown. So this is why this is very important, because you're gonna come back to this. You're gonna literally dead center, and you're gonna part from the crown to the natural part in the front. So basically it's gonna look like this. And we're always working with our clients' natural growth patterns, because no haircut is symmetrical. This line is not gonna be a perfect line. It's gonna be, as you can see, it's probably a little off center and it slightly curves. You see that, right? It slightly curves. It's not a straight perfect line, and it's because no human being is symmetrical. Nobody's perfect. We're working with what the client is bringing us. In order to create symmetry, we're using asymmetry. That section that I had originally in a horseshoe, I've parted from the crown to the natural part, creating a nice, a nice curved line, working with his natural growth patterns. So all we're gonna do is we're basically gonna start at the back again, and whatever is sticking out, whatever is hanging, we're basically, which is the hair from the top that we're trying to connect to the sides, we're elevating. Think of it like if I have a marble right here, it wouldn't slide down or it wouldn't come up, it would stay balanced. So that's when we know we got the right elevation. So boom, you can see my guide right under, cut. My guide right under from the foundation that I cut previously, cut. And never cutting past the second knuckle. Never ever cutting past the second knuckle. The reason being is you don't have the same tension once you pass the second knuckle. You can penetrate through this. You see this? You see how the scissor goes right in? But through here, scissor can't, because I have more tension. Find my guide, cut. Consistent cuts. Find your guide right under, you see it, cut. So I've cut round into the fringe already, and you can kind of see on both sides. All I have to do is meet this line in the middle right here, all the way through. Just cut this, match that. This is just to add some texture. You don't want to close the scissor all the way. You're kind of just gliding through, adding a little bit of texture to this. I'm gonna dry it up now. So what I like to do is after I cut the top, I like to come in when the hair's dry and just take horizontal sections all the way through. Obviously, you know, the hair is a lot more difficult to manipulate when it's dry, but right now I'm not even focused too much on my precision. I'm just coming in, adding some texture to this. So I'm picking up the hair straight 90 degrees up, and I'm just deep point cutting just to add more texture to this haircut. It's a haircut that's gonna move a lot. It's gonna have a lot of movement, a lot of texture. So what we're doing is just taking horizontal sections, scooping up 90 degrees off the head, and just cutting some texture into that, adding some peaks and valleys with some deep point cuts. So now I'm coming in to detail this front. Obviously it's not perfect right now because I always leave this to the end to detail with the trimmer. I just basically cut like a rough draft. Now I come through with my trimmer. So what's next is we're coming in with our 3 guard right into that foundation that we cut earlier. So this 3 to debulk all this right here, and you want to just stay square with the clipper, ramp off the head, staying square. You don't want to dig into his head. Once I clear the bulk with my 3, I'm gonna be coming in and I'm gonna be placing my zero line. Just basically right now, all I'm doing is making sure that this is nice and consistent, nice and bald. Everything under the 0 is bald for a skin fade, of course. After we debulk with a 3, come in with a 0, and skin him out, our next step is half open. So the clipper open, we're about to go a finger high, about a finger high. We're gonna close our clipper and attack that other line right there, right under. Just gently, you don't want to take it too high. Just softly flick at that line, cleaning that little shadow that was left after we went in with our half. Just softly erasing it. using your corners, just floating, not trying to make any harsh lines. After we've done our half, we're gonna come in with our 1 closed, about another finger higher with our 1, 1, 1 right there. After we use our 1, we're gonna drop down to our half guard. We're gonna start open, and we're gonna slowly close it, just to soften up this line right here that one created. One thing about me when I fade is I don't move until that line is gone. So right now I'm coming in with my half open, softening up this line as much as possible. I know I'm gonna have to close it, so right now I'm still open. Now I'm like halfway, but I know that line's gonna go away when the clippers close all the way. Right now I'm just softening it up, not trying to create any harsh lines, just softening up this fade as much as I could. Now I close it all the way, and I even a softer stroke now that the clippers close all the way to get rid of this line. It's always good to incline your client's head, make sure that he's slight tilt so you can not only see, but it's easier for you to ramp up. The next step, 2.5. So it's gonna be the 2 guard with the lever all the way open, and we're gonna take it right under our 3 that we did earlier. So 2.5 right into this 3. This is our 2.5 right here. Two and a half still. Now I close all the way down to 2. So now I'm hitting my 2, 2, all the way 2. If I still hear my clipper cutting, I'm not gonna stop cutting, but I can still hear it cutting. After doing our 2, we drop down to our 1.5, open. First open, soften up that fade. You can hear it cutting, you can hear it crunching. Close all the way now. One and a half, close all the way, right under my 2.5. So now we drop down to our 1 guard. I'm coming in with a 1 guard open, so that means it's a 1.5. When it's open, it's a 0.5. When it's closed, it's 0, so 1.5. 1.5 to soften this up. 1.5 all the way. Nice. Drop down to my 1. Drop down to my 1. And right here that I've casted, I'm coming in with my half guard now. Half guard open. Softly stroking out that line. Trying to soften up that line to make the blend happen. Now I'm closed all the way. Closed all the way. So now it's detailing basically, still with my half guard, open, just softening up all these little dark spots that I don't want. Now I close. Using my corners now, I don't want to use the full blade of the machine. Don't want any big footprints, so I'm using my corners. So you see, now we have a slight bit of weight that's kind of overhanging. All we're gonna do is simply do some classic shear over comb, very classic technique that every barber should have in their arsenal. All we're gonna do is come in square and eat up this weight right here. And we shouldn't be doing too much shear over comb if you come in with the right foundation. Remember earlier I was talking about coming knuckles tight to the head, so you have very minimal scissor work to do at the end. Very minimal refinement. So a technique that I like to use to refine my fades and really detail and just kind of perfect the fade a little bit more is I like to come in with the scissor and I like to put it on the scalp like this. And I basically, what I'm doing right now is cutting at any dark spot that I see, trying to make the blend look even cleaner, smoother, and whatever I don't like, I just kind of pick at with the scissor. And you obviously have to practice this before you do it on a client. You don't want any accidents to happen, so you got to make sure you practice this first. Practice on a dog, practice on a mannequin, until you feel comfortable with the technique. All right, guys, here we go. We have the final look right here. All we're missing is just a little bit of styling, and I'm gonna finish it off with a little bit of the male image sea salt spray, just a couple little squirts of this. I already kind of pre-styled this, so just gonna diffuse a little bit. Make sure I bring out that texture and that volume. Then next step is I want to straighten out that front area so it's nice and straight. Very simple, very low maintenance, shop friendly haircut. Here you guys go, check it out. If you guys learned anything with this video, please feel free to share it, like, comment, subscribe, and whatever you guys want to see next, whatever hairstyle or anything that you want to know about the barbering industry, just comment down below and we'll make that happen.